Hello, welcome to Low Carb in the Leaves with Dr. Mary Barson from Real Life Medicine. This week we're diving into metabolic syndrome, and I decided to do this topic because we as low carb doctors get lots and lots of questions about cholesterol, especially when we tell people that it's okay to eat the natural fat that occurs naturally in healthy natural foods, which goes against perhaps a lot of the dietary dogma that has existed in the last few decades. So I discussed how dietary cholesterol doesn't make meaningful impacts on our cholesterol profile as a whole. And yesterday I did a pretty deep dive into metabolic syndrome, what it is and what it isn't, and how it really is the metabolic syndrome that it is at the core of chronic lifestyle illnesses and therefore its treatment. But I thought I would talk a little bit more about what metabolic syndrome is again today and clarify this. So it's insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is key. And I mentioned that yesterday, but didn't really kind of go into what that means. Insulin, it's raining. My glasses are going to get quite covered in rain, which will be amusing for everybody watching at home. So insulin resistance is at the heart of all metabolic diseases. And in truth, we don't still completely understand what causes it. There's books that have chapters and chapters of ideas. There are thousands upon thousands of scientific studies looking into this, but we don't completely understand the cause of insulin resistance. We know that it's incredibly common, and we know that it's incredibly dangerous for health long term. And insulin resistance does not develop suddenly. It's not something like type 1 diabetes can develop really suddenly. So, today's normal person is not tomorrow's type 2 diabetic. It's something that occurs silently over the decades to many people. So it's a process that goes over decades, and as we mentioned, quite a few biological changes start to occur. The triglycerides go up, the fats in the blood. Fat gets shoved into the liver, into the abdominal organs, called fatty liver disease. Serum triglycerides go up. Fat cells start to spend more time in storage mode, less time able to burn and release their fat. So body weight goes up, causing overweight and obesity over time, particularly around the central abdominal area. The good cholesterol, HDL, starts to go down, blood pressure goes up, and over time, if it's left untreated, it can cause type 2 diabetes and heart disease and a whole lot of horrible things. So without getting into the real molecular detail, because we still don't completely understand, I think a very convincing model of what causes insulin resistance, that is that the cells in this body start become resistant to the effects of insulin, so the body has to make more and more insulin, and then the body becomes even more resistant to that insulin, so it has to make more and more, and you get up into this vicious cycle till eventually the whole thing breaks down and you get high blood sugar, high insulin, type 2 diabetes, and a whole lot of other problems. What causes it is insulin. So insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is caused by insulin. I had this light bulb moment when I discovered this a few years ago, and it has led to a bit of a saying among, low carb doctors and doctors who work in this space. It's the insulin stupid. And it is so obvious when you think about it. And I like to liken it to an analogy. So insulin causes insulin resistance in the same way that alcohol causes alcohol resistance. And those of you who know me will know that I can't drink alcohol. It's a sad but true fact of being me. It just doesn't agree with me, which is sad but true. So imagine I am alcohol sensitive. In fact, I'm very alcohol sensitive. But imagine sitting next to me here, someone the same age, a seasoned alcoholic, somebody who drinks alcohol every day to excess. All right. Now imagine a litre of vodka. If I drank a litre of vodka, I would die. I would be dead. That is because I am very alcohol sensitive. If a seasoned alcoholic drank a litre of vodka, they'd probably get drunk. That they are alcohol resistant. And what has caused this seasoned alcoholic to become alcohol resistant? It's the alcohol. Having alcohol day in, day out has built up the body's tolerance to it. The body has had to become resistant to it to cope, and they can have a litre of vodka and not die. Same thing happens with insulin resistance. So in genetically susceptible people, which is almost everybody, and as I mentioned yesterday, there's a genetic reason, like an evolutionary reason why we could be primed for insulin resistance. In caveman times, when high-carb foods like fruit were only available seasonally, it made sense to be able to gorge on them and gain fat then. Gain fat during the summer and autumn months when there was lots of fruit around so that you could survive the much leaner winter and indeed spring as well. So it kind of makes sense that we have this capacity, but it's not doing us any favours now. All right, so insulin resistance. You've got the genes for insulin resistance, as so many people do. And then you're in this high-carb environment. It's like, from an evolutionary point of view, there's all of this fresh fruit around, high-carb food, and you're gorging day in, day out. But it's not seasonal fresh fruit in hunter-gatherer times. It's bread and rice and pasta and potatoes and the 1970s food pyramid with those carbohydrates down the bottom, meaning that they were supposed to be the basis of our every meal. So we eat carbs day in, day out. Carbs then, when we eat them, we need to release insulin to be able to deal with them, to take the sugar that we eat that gets into our bloodstream and be able to either store it as fat or glycogen. But the body becomes overwhelmed. We're eating lots of carbs. The body needs to make insulin. Over time, the body needs to make more and more insulin. The body starts to get resistant to the insulin. So then the pancreas has to shove out more. We get more resistant. We get into this vicious cycle that is fueled by eating a high-carb diet. And over many years, this results in metabolic syndrome, which is very bad for you. So, what causes insulin resistance? Probably the biggest factor that causes insulin resistance is insulin. It's the insulin stupid, is certainly something I said to myself many years ago. The wonderful scientist, South African scientist, Dr. Tim Noakes, has got a great YouTube series called It's the Insulin Resistance Stupid. And I think I encourage you all to watch it. It's really, really very good. All right, so it's the insulin stupid. So what do you do about it? If insulin causes insulin resistance, what's the treatment? Well, here's the thing. Insulin resistance on its own is not actually a dangerous thing. It's insulin resistance plus a high-carb diet and other bad lifestyle factors that make it very dangerous. So if you don't eat the high carbs day in, day out, and you have insulin resistance, you're fine. Nothing's bad's going to happen. Your body doesn't have to pump out the insulin to deal with the carbs that you're not eating. And so over time, and it does take time, the insulin levels can come down. And when the insulin levels come down, the body can switch from its fat storing mode to its fat burning mode. You can lose fat, particularly around the dangerous metabolically active and inflammatory fat around the middle and around the liver. Indeed, fatty liver resolves incredibly quickly when you go on a low-carb diet. The liver is a miraculous organ with a miraculous ability to heal. And once it's stopped being bombarded with high-carb diets day in, day out, it gets better within weeks, possibly even days. It's amazing. The rest of the body takes a little bit longer to heal, but that as the insulin comes down, the blood pressure can come down, the cholesterol profile can improve, the entire body can start to heal. Oh, hey, my love, I'll be with you in 1 second. Okay, all right, I'll be there in a minute. Okay, I have to go. There's a crisis situation that needs my attention, but I think I have dealt with it all today. So enjoy your low carb food, everybody. I'm off to go deal with an issue, and have a wonderful day. See ya.